Good day guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to get into something really wonderful. Postman has really gone far and beyond with automation and also testing of APIs. The only thing I am expecting from them right now is probably just remove the old reliance on Newman when it comes to reporting, because as far as I know I've not seen any reporting tool that can be used with Postman without using Newman. But right now I can tell you authoritatively that Postman has been doing this for over a year now, and I didn't know until some time ago that you can actually use your Postman in your CI/CD pipeline, and everything will be working. Yes, it would get the Postman tool, it will install it, and through your API key that you generate an API key for you to be able to log in into it and run everything. Very simple. So in these easy steps, I will show you how it is done. So let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do is, you get your collection. So I have a collection right here. I have from Platzi Fake Store. You can Google it and you would see. Not only would you find Postman APIs here, you won't find you will find REST APIs. You will see GraphQL queries, and you have some test site too. So if you're really keen on automation, this is a good place to start. So let's get right into it. So what I would just do basically is just get into this runner, this particular runner here. And in this particular runner, you see I've run it before. So if I click on run, yeah, if I click on run, what's wrong? Okay. So if I click on run and I try to run it, so it comes to the functional part. Oh, and I also need to mention that you can also do some performance testing on Postman now, but that will be probably for another video when I have the time. So let's get into this. We don't need to run it manually. And when talking about manual, it is very important to tell people that until you have anything running in your pipeline that does not require you to trigger it before it runs, that is when you can say you do automation. Anything that you do that still involves you to go and click a button by yourself after something is done, that is not automation. So you should really get it right. So what we want to do is to run it in CI/CD. So in order to get to that, you click on automate runs. And this is not what we need, because this one can run it on our local terminal. Like I said, you just need to add an API key, but what we want to do is run it on the CI/CD. And Postman comes with something very delicious, something very good for us. You just need to click here. The collection you have is there. In this particular class, I'm not going to create, I didn't go ahead to create an environment variable. I just created a collection so I can just use it to demonstrate how this runs in your pipeline. So what I'm going to use as my CI/CD provider is going to be GitHub Actions, because I have a GitHub account already. So that's what I will use. And having said that, all I just need to do is copy this configuration. It has automatically created for me. As you can see, a Postman API key will be needed, and I can equally generate that right here. So how I'm going to put that into the code or into the repository, I will explain that in a bit. But just remember that this will be needed. A Postman API key will be needed to run this. And what will it be needed for? So that Postman can log in into the collection, log in and run the collection. So that being said, let's copy this. So when I've copied this, now what I need is a VS Code. And what I will use the VS Code for is basically to put this configuration in a YAML file and to also collect the entire collection and put together so that Postman can run it in the pipeline. So I have to return it as a project. So now I'm going to create a fresh repository with no Git initialized in it yet. So I will go to my VS Code. I will create a project somewhere. Let me just create a folder, a new folder. Go to YouTube, classes, and so I'll do Postman automate. Right. So once I've done this, I just open it here. And remember, the thing I copied, I can just put it right here. So now this is how GitHub works. When you want to run it with your GitHub Actions, you have to create a folder called, you first create a directory called GitHub. Then after that, you create another subdirectory inside it, you call that workflows. Then inside workflows, you can now create the file that you need. And this file, you can name it anything you want. So I'm going to name this one Postman Automate or something. No, Postman Run. Let's just call it Postman Run.yaml. Is a YAML file, because what we want to use is a YAML command. So I'm going to paste what we have copied. And as you can see, there's a squiggly line here. So it's showing us there is a problem, but it's no problem at all, because that Postman API key will be configured right there inside our project. So when I've done this, the next thing I want to do is just copy this collection. So I'm going to export the collection right away. So export, and I'm going to take it to YouTube, Postman Automate, and have it done there. So now that I have it there, if you check here, you'll find it there. Now the last thing I'll add to this place as good practice, not inside here, I need to add it to the old repository. What I need to add is a git ignore file. So files that are not needed will not accompany the code. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this as well. And I think we're good. So now that I've created this, the next thing I will do is I'll go and create a repository on my, let me create a new repository on my GitHub. Now I started a new GitHub, so I have another GitHub on my system. So in case you have a new, you now create a new GitHub account to use for probably practice. At the point of pushing, you might have some issues with permission. That would be because your system, either a Windows system or a Mac system, must have saved your credentials. So what you can do is you can either delete the credentials or edit it to have this done, to have these credentials included in it, or let this new credential override it. I'm saying this because people usually get into that kind of situation. So I just said, let me just do that. So we have API demo, and you can see that I'm not adding a README file. It's a public repository, and I'm going to create it that way. So the advantage that this presents to you is that it gives you some, if you don't add a README file, you'll be able to see some instructions that would help you, right? It will help you create it will help you connect your local repository, that's the repository existing on your system, with the remote repository, which is the repository that is existing on your web. So it is not good practice. It doesn't show you have the technical know-how if you now clone this and start copying the files on your local into it. It shows that you really lack the technical know-how. What you should do technically is here. So because I know all the things I need to do, so I can just come into this place, and I can just open a terminal here, and let's wait for it. Then I would initialize a new repository with this command. So an empty repository is there. I can rename that repository because it is actually good practice to rename it. I've mentioned in previous videos before. So what I now need to do is I have to make sure that all the files that I have here is now added to, because right now with this command, I have created a new, I've initialized a repository into this. So I now need to connect this, my local repository, and the remote repository. And what would help me do that is basically this command. This command will help me do that. I'll just remote add it, then that will be it. Okay, so let me clear and bring it back up. So now that I've added it, it means that they are now connected. So there's a connection between them. So I can equally just add all my files here. I have like 3 files to add, 2 subfolders and 3 files. So 2 folders and 2 subfolders and 3 files. So I can just use an arbitrary sign to indicate it should add everything rather than adding them specifically by their file name and the path where they are stored. I can just do it this way. Then I've added everything. Then I can add a commit message, so I can begin my tracking of every progress I made. So this is my first commit, so I can say first commit, right? Now, I'm not going to push yet. I'm not going to push yet. So I am going to, let me not even commit it yet. So what I want to do is, remember that I mentioned the Postman API key. So let us generate one. Let's generate an API key. I'll just call it probably API key. Just give it any name. So it has generated one. So I'm going to copy this. Let me copy this. And also I'll copy this name, Postman API key. What will I do with this? I will go into my repository that I've created and click on settings. So when I get to settings, I'll click on secrets and variables. I'll do this. This is where I will now create a secret. I'll create a repository secret. This is where I will store the key. So which means when GitHub Actions sees the command that has been written inside here, when it sees this, right? When it sees this, it automatically comes to look for it inside here. So I'm going to go right ahead and do that. Then I'll put the key there. Yes. And add the secret. That's all I need to do. And this is done. So the next thing I'll do right now is go back to this place. So now that I've added the secret and I've added all the files that I needed, so I can just commit this. Now that it's committed, I can now push origin main. Now that this is done, when I come here and I reload this page, all the files that I added will be there. But this is not what we want to see. We come to GitHub Actions. You can see that something is already running and I did not even click it to run. All I did was just add my files and automatically it is running. This is what you will call automation because I did not trigger the automation script. Everything has finished. The test has finished. It has executed everything. We have 14 requests and all. But if you see something, I did not have any assertions. I didn't create it. Postman can also rescue me from that. I don't need to, if I'm in a hurry, and I have a lot to do, I can let Postman generate tests for me. So if I come to the test tab, this Postman icon here, all I just need to do is the new AI that Postman has added. So I can just click on add test to this request. All I need to do is, if the request has not been executed before, all I need to do is send the request and continue. So once the response is generated, it will automatically create a test for it. And as it has already tested the test, so it's all passed. So I can just save this. So I'll do this for maybe the next 3. Yeah, let me generate a test again. I'll send the request. But if the request is already, if the response is already existing, all it will just do is look at the response, then generate a test. So I'm going to show you how that is done as well. So I'll come here and let me just send the request first. I've sent the request. So let me also now do this. So you see that it's not telling me to send the request because the response is already there. It could work with. So it has done that. So I've saved it. So all the tests are passing. So let me do for the last one and do that all over again. Let's just do it this way. Send the request and go. Yep. And let's wait for the test to generate. The test has been generated and it's all passed. So it is also important to say that because its tests is not just AI generated, they are actually adequate and solid tests built around best practices. So some of the tests at times might not pass due to the poor practice that has been done in your API collection, or if there is a disparate configuration. So what you can do is you can either delete that test or edit that test to suit what you have. So that being said, we've done this. So the next thing I will do is I will come here into my VS Code, create a new branch. So you just see the power of automation itself. So I can come here. I can decide to create, don't forget, you can use your command here to create a new branch. Sorry. Let me come to my terminal. I can come to my terminal and where I am right now and create, let me clear this so it can be seen properly. I can create a new branch using git checkout -b and I can say add test, right? But if I can also rely on VS Code to help me with it, and I can come here and say create a new branch. So I can create a branch from here. So I have to, if I click create branch from, it will create it from main. If I want anywhere I need to create, so it's creating branch from here. So I need to provide a branch name. I'll call that add test. So now that I've done that, as you can see, now I'm on add test. If I close this terminal and I reopen now, you'll see that I will be on add test. The name of my branch will be add test, no longer main. So that being said, all I just need to do is change this postman, because change the postman collection, because the postman collection I have here now has test in it. So all I just need to do is export this again, export, then I'll use it to replace what is here. Now that that is done, if you come here, you'll see that this has changed its shade. So all I can do is just add it. And since it's just one file and is in the root, I can just add it this way. So, but if it's multiple files, that's when I would probably need to put a full stop to indicate that I should add all the multiple files together. So now I can commit this with the flag M and say added test. Now that I've committed it, I can push it. Now, where will I be pushing to? I'll be pushing to the current branch where I am. So I will be able to create a pull request. Okay? So with this done, I can come here now. This is the pull request. As you can see, it's a pull new. So I can click on my control. If you're using a Windows system, if you're using a Mac system, you click on command and click, and it automatically opens for you, right? So let me just copy it. Let me copy it. I'm going to copy, come here and paste, right? Okay, so I've added new tests. If I want to put descriptions of what I've done, I can put that in it. But like I said, I just want this thing to be like 10 minutes. So let me quickly get through it. What has failed? Let's see details. Okay, the test has failed already. As you can see, it has automatically run and one of the assertions failed. So which one of the assertions failed? Image is an invalid format. Okay. So we need to just go into, but I need to finish that. Well, that request is still there. So let's see which image failed, which test failed. Oh, so there's a test here that failed. I didn't see that. And you know, I mentioned it. Now this is the free API. The check is trying to do might not actually be there. So let us remove this particular one. And let us run this test again and see. Let's remove that one and run the test again and see if everything passes. Yes, everything passes. So we save this, and which means I have to export this again and update our test. So let us export again. But you've seen the power of automation, right? I'm going to export and taking it here, we use it to replace it. You see the power of automation. We had not even finished the request yet. We had not finished the request and it has already executed itself. So we did not touch it and the assertions are 16. So the assertions will remain 16 and it should work now that we have fixed the test. So if I'm going to update this pull request at this point, let me go back to the pull request. If I'm going to update this pull request at this point, you'll see that another one would take over and run again. So let us get here because we've replaced it again, and we'll do the whole process all over again. Git add, we add that file, git commit. This time we can say fixed failing test, fixed failed test, and we can push again. We can push to the same branch because that's the current branch where we are, and We do not need to do anything spectacular. If we refresh our pull request now, we see that there's another pull there and everything is being checked and there are no conflicts. So right now it is running. So we can come and look at the details of it. Everything has run successfully. All the tests that we wrote, we now added has passed. All the 16 assertions are here. So this is what automation really looks like. I did not trigger the test by itself. I'm just adding updates and it is being triggered. So I did not go to where the whole automation process was. All I was just doing was update things. So with this, I think we've come to the end of it, and I think you would agree with me that it is pretty cool. So in another time, maybe we could look at how you can use Postman to conduct performance tests. Thank you for watching and thank you for sticking. Bye bye.